So, good evening, Rabbi. We're going to discuss tonight the Parashat Shavua, which is Chayeh. So, I want to talk about the issue of Avraham Avinu. He comes now to Eliezer. Eliezer was his faithful servant. Right? Who was Eliezer, by the way? Eliezer was a very special guy. There's a couple of opinions about who he was actually, right? We know that he came from Ham. He came from
Ham.
Right, from Ham. He came from Ham, that's for sure. But the question is, which side of Ham did he come from? Some say, there's a midrash that says that Eliezer came from Nimrod. Right? Nimrod was one of the descendants of Ham, and Eliezer was a son of Nimrod.
Okay.
Right? So, what does that mean? It has a lot of significance. Why is that? Because Nimrod was a big Rasha, right? As we already discussed before. He was a big sinner. He was the one who put Avraham Avinu in jail for 10 years. 10 years, Avraham Avinu was in jail. Nimrod put him in jail for 10 years. Yeah. We talked about this before, a couple of weeks ago. And he also, did that test with him to see if he would do idolatry. So Nimrod was a very bad character. Killer, murderer, Rasha. He took people away from Hashem. He caused people to do idolatry, to sin, everything. The worst of the worst. The lowest of the low. So comes Eliezer now. But Nimrod was a king. He was a king of Bavel. He was a king of Iraq, that area. Mesopotamia, he was the king of all that area. Nimrod. Unbelievable, right? So what happened was that Eliezer was his son, according to this midrash. So what does that mean? That he was a son of a king. Right? Son of a king. So how does the son of a king become the slave of Avraham Avinu? Right? How do you go from being a prince to being a slave? Good question, right? So the truth is that this is not the first time that we find this. This is already the second time. What does that mean? That Hagar was also the slave, maidservant of Sarah in the family of Avraham Avinu. She was also a daughter of a king. She was a daughter of Paro. That's what it says, right in the Midrash. She was a daughter of Paro. So what happened was that she also became a slave. So what happened to these two people, right? She became a slave maidservant. He became a slave also. Eliezer. Why slaves? They're from family of royalty. So you know what Rashi says over there, right, regarding this? He says that, he brings it from the Chazal, from the Midrashim. It says, right, that when Paro saw the greatness of Avraham Avinu, how great he was, his family, his greatness, he said, better that my daughter should be a slave in his family than to be a princess in my family. So therefore, what she did was, he gave his daughter over to Avraham Avinu to be their slave. Can you imagine? This is how prominent he was, Avraham Avinu. Very prominent man. So the same thing now goes also for Eliezer. Eliezer was also son of a king. He was a prince. Nevertheless, he became the slave of Avraham Avinu. Another case. The same idea. Can you imagine? So what happens like this, right? That Eliezer now is a big tzaddik. Not only he's a slave, usually slaves are problematic people. Thieves, crooks, cheaters. Slaves are usually bad people. Bad character. But this guy, Eliezer, was the best of the best, right? Creme of the creme. What does that mean? Eliezer was a big tzaddik. He learned the Torah of Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu taught him the whole Torah from back and forth. Can you imagine? Eliezer was a big chacham. But he was also Eved, he was a slave. Right? But the interesting thing is like this, right? That so there was a dichotomy over here, right? On the one hand, Eliezer is a slave. On the other hand, he's a son of a king. Very strange, right? Dichotomy that goes on. So what happens like this, right? That they say, the Midrash also something else. That Eliezer, he had a very striking appearance as well. He was a very handsome man. He looked like the son of a king. You know what I mean? Had like that, tall structure, imposing face, countenance. That's the way he was. Very impressive looking man. So, but nevertheless, he's a slave. Very strange, right? So, now Avraham Avinu brings Eliezer. He tells him, listen, Eliezer, I need you to do me a very big favor. My son, he almost got killed. We just took him to the binding. He was just bound over there on Har Moriah. We almost killed him over there. Brought him up as a sacrifice. One thing I regret now that I saw this thing. What do I regret? That I never got a wife for him. He's 37 years old. At the time of the binding, he was 37. When he got married, he was 40. Right? So Rabbi told Eliezer, listen, my son is already an old man. He's already a middle-aged man, a midlife crisis, It's coming, right? So midlife crisis, and he has no children and wife. Terrible situation. He almost got killed. So what does that mean? That he could have died without having any children. That would have been terrible. So therefore, Avraham says, I have to marry off my son. This is like emergency now. No more, right? No more waiting. No more procrastination. So what he does is he tells Eliezer, right? No more dwelling. So he tells Eliezer, I want you to promise me, right? Go and find a wife for my son. You got to be the machakali, chatrialdi, But you know what that means, right? So he tells him like this: you got to go find a wife for him. So Eliezer tells him, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go? What's your instructions? So he tells him everything: what to do, where to go, where not to go. There was very detailed instructions what he told him to do. But the truth is, right, that Eliezer, the Chazal say, he had an ulterior motive over here. What does that mean? Once he heard this, that Avraham Avinu wants to marry off his son, he says, why don't you marry, he was thinking, why don't you marry my daughter? I have a daughter. This was his intention in the beginning. He entertained the idea that maybe he'll marry my daughter. So what happened was that once Avraham Avinu saw that he was suggesting these things, so he put his foot down, tells him, listen, my friend, I can't have my son marry your daughter. What's the reason why? So he tells him, you are cursed and I'm blessed. Cursed and blessed doesn't go together. We can't go doesn't go together like that. This is the idea. So what does that mean? Why was Avraham Avinu blessed and why was Eliezer cursed? Because Avraham Avinu was blessed by Hashem. He blessed him. He told him, you're the tzaddik of the generation, you're the righteous one of the generation. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, Eliezer was cursed. Why was he cursed? Because he came from Ham. Ham was cursed by Noah.
Yeah.
We discussed this, right? So Avraham tells him, says, I'm blessed, you're cursed, It doesn't go together. It's like, oil and water. Doesn't go together. It's like shatnez, like kilaim, like, when you take two species and try to put them together. Doesn't go together. Graft them together, grafting. I don't want to do grafting with you. You're cursed, I'm blessed. I cannot have my son marry your daughter. So he tells him, get this out of your head, Forget about that. Maybe that's what Shalba thinks. Just joking. I'm joking. So, you understand? You never know what they think in their head, these people. So, tells him, listen, I can't, I can't do that. So once Eliezer realizes that there's no chance he's going to marry his daughter, forget about that, right? It's out of the picture. So he tells him, okay, what should I do? Where should I go? He tells him, go to my family, in Aram, in Mesopotamia. Go over there and go to my family over there, my extended family, cousins, uncles, this, that. You'll find over there a chick for her, a girl, You'll find her, no problem. Go for it. So tells him, okay, I'll go. So what happens, he goes, right? So comes over there Eliezer, and they say, right, that he was such a big tzaddik Eliezer, that he got there in like a couple of seconds. Why is that? Even though this was a big trip, we're talking about 3-hour plane ride. But he got there in a couple of seconds. How is that? Because they were on such a big level, these people, they were able to do the magic tricks like this. This is not magic, this is from the Torah. The Torah, they had the power from the Torah to go distances without having to go anywhere. Say some name of Hashem, say of God, go and vanish over here, appear over there. That's what he did. So what happened was he goes over there. So they see him, coming, and they are like looking at him. They say, "Oh my God, who is this man? He looks like a prince, because he looked like as we said, right, very impressive. He was the son of a king, So he tells them, I'm the slave of Aram, your relative. They tell him, you're a slave? You look like a king. What are you talking about? What? So that really impressed them very much. What does that mean? They said, wow, if you can imagine if a slave looks like this, what must the master be? You can imagine what he is. That was the idea, right? So this was like interesting, right? Again, right, we have this funny dichotomy over here, right? This contrast in terms going on, right? One to the other, whatever. So anyway, the point is, number one, what happens like this, right? That comes Eliezer and tells a praise to God once he gets there. He goes to the well over there. There was a well. He sits by the well. So in those days, people used to gather by the well, to draw water from there, right? They didn't have like taps like we have today and all these things. So he gathers over there and he prays to Hashem. He says to God, he says, please, God Hashem, may it be your will. I don't know how to look for this lady. I don't know how to find her. It's like a needle in a haystack, There's so many people over here. How do I know how to find her? How do I know what to look for? So he says, you know what? I'm gonna ask you to give me a sign. A sign from God, right? Tells him like this. Listen, give me a sign. What does that mean? If I see a girl over here who comes and I ask her to drink, give me some water to drink, I'm tired, I'm thirsty. So what's gonna be is that they're gonna, that lady, if she tells me, oh yeah, I'll give you, and also I'll give your camels as well. I'll give everybody. Come join us. Come. So he tells, if she's gonna be like so generous like that, so kind, I'll give you, and also I'll give your camels. I'll give you water to drink. She has to go there and work, and draw the water out. It's hard labor. You know what I mean? It's not like opening a tap. You know what I mean? So he says, if the girl who comes like this, if she should be the one that is the one for the son of my master. So the Chazal say, right, that this prayer that he said was actually not proper to say like this prayer. What does that mean? They say there was 3 people who said an improper prayer like this. What does that mean? He was one of them, Eliezer. Why is it improper? Because he said, it should be the one that comes and gives me water. She should be the one. So what does that mean? What? You want, even if she's going to be a crippled girl, like a paraplegic, cerebral palsy, you're going to take her too? You know what I mean? What kind of thing is that, right? So a person has to know, don't say things like this. Don't do prayers like this. Because you never know what you're going to get, right? Who's going to give you some water? Maybe it's going to be some bad girl, some sick girl, whatever. All these kinds of things. So the Chazal say that even though he asked in a bad way, in an improper manner, it was improper. It was an improper conversation, like those guys in the Congress, right? They said, right? Those Vindeman. What's the Vindeman? What's the name? Right? This guy. It was improper, right? Improper conversation. So this was also improper conversation.
He's a weasel, by the way.
Yeah, he's a lowlife. Yeah, lowlife. Yes, I know. So now, interesting thing, right? That. But nevertheless, he was answered properly. Even though he said it in proper way, Hashem answered him in the proper way. What does that mean? He brought the real girl, the real one. There was also another one who asked like this, and also he was answered properly, even though he asked improperly. Who was that? This was Shaul, right? The king, the Melech Shaul. What does that mean? He said also something like this, right? He said that there was a battle going on at that time. This was the generation of David HaMelech, right? So what happened was there was a battle going on, and there was like one scary, Philistine, right? This was Goliath, famous Goliath, right? So he said that he made a promise like this. He says, whoever goes out and defeats this Goliath, right, Goliath, I'll give him my daughter to marry, right? He'll marry the daughter of the king. So here also the Gemara says, it was improper to ask this way. Why? Because what about if some slave comes, and comes and defeats this man? So what are you going to do? You give your daughter to a slave?
Yeah.
Right? So this is also improper to do such a thing like this. There was also a third one, which is also, they say, was improper. You know which one that was? That was also Iftach, right? Iftach was the leader of one of the generations.
Yeah.
During the biblical era, before the first temple was built. Okay. So what happened was that Iftach, he also had to go out and fight a war against against Midian. So what happens is he says like this, right? Against Ammon.
Yes.
Midian. Ammon, one of the nations, right? So he says to Hashem, if I defeat them, if you allow me to defeat my enemies, when I come back, the first thing that comes out of my home, of my barn,
yes,
I'll offer it up as a sacrifice. So what happened was in the end, you know what happened, right? His daughter came out.
I see.
So that means that I have to offer my daughter as a sacrifice. So what does that mean? That even though Shaul was answered properly, why was he answered properly? Because David was the one who defeated Goliath.
Yes.
So therefore he was the one who married him, his daughter. That's what was good. But here, Iftach was not answered properly. He didn't have the zechut. He didn't have the merit. So what happened was his daughter came out. So what does that mean, right? He had now the big dilemma. What does he have to do with her now? Maybe he has to offer as a sacrifice, offer his daughter as a sacrifice. Because he promised. He made a vow, All kinds of strange issues like this, right? All kinds of weird things. So therefore the Chazal teaches us from here, you learn one thing, right? That don't trap your mouth, say something which, you're going to regret later. That's the idea, you know what I mean? Don't right? Don't ask for quick pro, right? All kind of quid pro. Don't ask for these kinds of things on the phone. Otherwise, they may get you, right? That's right. Don't talk about these demands, right, of these things on the phone. That's the idea, right? You have to do it to the back channels. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? You want to do these kinds of things. So that's the idea. So therefore, right, it tells you the Torah that a person has to be careful what he comes out of his mouth. You know that there's a saying like this, right? Be careful what you pray for, because you may get it. You know what I mean? What about if you really get what you're praying for? Then what are you going to do? Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have to realize what you're getting yourself into when you make a request like this. This is the idea, right? The eventuality may be very, very poor, right? Very, very, very disappointing. So therefore, a person has to be careful what comes out of his mouth. You never know, right? There's a Chazal say, Brit Kutares Fatayim. You know what that means? That when a person says something, it has a power. You know, it can effectuate all kinds of things in this world. It can actually come true. So make sure when you say something, you're asking for something to come true, make sure you really are ready for that. You really want that. This is the idea, right? Otherwise, if you're not ready, it may hit you on the head, and then, you say, what happened? You know, you don't even know what to do with that. This is the idea. Okay, very good. That's one lesson from this Parashat. Another interesting lesson is like this, right? Now, Rivka comes out. Once Eliezer demands, right? Actually, he asks Hashem, let it be that the one who comes out and gives me drinks, that's the one. You know? So Rivka comes out. You know? So Rivka comes out. He asks her, he says, at that time how old was she? She was only 3 years old. Can you imagine? A little child. But she was already grown. In those days, they used to grow up faster. They used to grow up much, much faster. So it happens like this, right? That she was 3 years old at that time. So he comes and asks her, can you give me a drink? So she says, yeah, I'll give you a drink, and also your camels. You know, the camels over there. So there was to give camels to drink. It's a lot of water, you know. So she had to work very hard to draw the water out. It was a big job to give the camels to drink. We're talking about like gallons of water, you know, more and more and more and more and more. She gave everything, all camels. So she said, wow, he was like amazed, astonished at her. Why was he astonished? Because she's such a very kind person, you know, who could do such kindness like this. This is something unusual. You know, people usually don't do this kind of kindness. When you ask him for a glass of water, if it's a good person, he'll give you. You know, but he's not going to give you for your camels. He's going to say, for the camels, you do for your camels. Leave me alone, right? I gave you, that's enough for it. You know what I mean? She went the extra mile, you know, or the extra 10 miles, right? She went all the way. She gave him the water and also the camel's water. Giving camels water, it's a big job, right? So what do we see from there? That a person should look for a woman like this. Just like we're talking here, that Rivka was this kind of woman. What does that mean? She has to be a kind person, you know, good-hearted woman. This is very important. A woman who's giving, you know, like generous, good-hearted. This is really one of the definitions of what a Jewish woman is. You know, Eshet Chayil, you know, a woman who's valorous woman, Jewish woman. What does that mean? She does kindness for the family, for her husband, instead of repaying them with all kinds of revenge, you know, all kinds of Kudyanova, you know, Kishufim, all kinds of, right, sorcery. Instead of paying them with that, she pays them with kindness, with good things. So Jewish woman, definition of a Jewish woman is like this, right? That she has to be a kind woman, somebody who does chesed. And this is the reason why we find that this is exactly what we're looking for here. And so we're looking for this quality. We're looking for the quality of kindness. And this is why Eliezer, he said, I want a woman like this, you know, who gives, you know, she's a giver. She's a giving person. Because especially somebody like this, right? Who is she going to marry? She's going to marry Yitzchak. Yitzchak was a big chacham. He was a big rabbi, you know. So a big rabbi like this needs a woman who's very giving, very kind, because he's all the time, you know, in his Torah and his books, you know, and his studies, and doing all kinds of things, you know, religious services and this, and you know, and converting, you know, proselytes and all kinds of activities like this, bringing people closer to God. So he needs a woman who's, you know, in the background. She can give him that support that he needs. This is the idea, you know. This is exactly why they needed a woman like this. There's also another interesting point over here, right? That the pasuk points out, the narrative over here points out several things about Rivka. Besides the fact that she was very generous, overly generous, it also says that what? That she was also very beautiful, you know. So why does it have to mention that? What do I care if she's very beautiful? What? Am I marrying her? You know. So what difference does it make for me? So the truth is, right, that the rabbis, the sages, they say that this is actually considered to be something very good, that a woman is beautiful. Why is that? Why should a person look for a woman who's beautiful, especially a Talmid Chacham, especially a rabbi? What do you say about that? You have any idea?
Why not?
Why not? There's a reasoning here. The reasoning is like this, right? First of all, there's a Gemara, right? It says in the Gemara that a woman is for three things. There's three qualities that a person needs from a woman, right? The Rashi Tevot, the abbreviation is bait in Hebrew. Bait, bet, yud, tav. Bait, right? Bait. The first letter is bet. What does that mean? Banim, children, right? What does that mean? That you need a woman to have children. You need a wife who can have children. That's number one. Especially if you never had, right? Especially if you never had before. Case like that, for sure you need. So that's one. Yud is for what? Yofi, right? What does that mean? Beauty, right? So beauty is also very important in a woman. And the last one, Taf, last letter is what? Takshitin. What does that mean? That she has to be adorned with nice jewelry, You have to go to 47th, buy her some stuff, or on the internet, but order some stuff over there.
Wow.
Get her some jewelry also. So what does that mean? That she has to look nice, adorned, beauty, and you have to also see the the beauty in her face. You have to see that. What's the reason why? Why is it so important, this whole thing? Because when a person is married to one woman, he doesn't want to be now shopping around also for other ladies as well. You know what I mean? He wants to be monogamous, right? Hopefully. He wants to stay with one lady. So what does that mean? That if she looks good, there's no reason to look at other women. You understand? The temptation is much, much less. So you're a wife, a righteous woman, what does she do? She always watches out to look nice for her husband. Why is that? Because she knows that if she looks good for him, he won't be tempted to look at other women. This is the idea, So therefore, the beauty is also very, very important. This is also, all the more so, this is important to Talmid Chacham. Why is that? Because Talmid Chacham, they say, right, a rabbi, Chacham, his Yetzer Hara is even bigger than a regular person, right? Even though his Yetzer Hara Tov is also bigger, the good inclination is also bigger, but also the Yetzer Hara is bigger. They say it goes congruently to get one with the other, right? When the Yetzer Hara Tov is bigger, the Yetzer Hara is also bigger. It goes one with the other, conjunction, right? So what does that mean? That since the Yetzer Hara of the Talmid Chacham is very great, he has to have a beautiful woman, nor they should have to look at other women. You should have a especially beautiful woman that you shouldn't have to look at others. This is the idea. One should satisfy him. One should give him that, that comfort that he needs, in order that he shouldn't look at anybody else. That's the idea, right? So therefore, this is the reason why the pasuk specifies over here that Rivka Imenu and also Sarah Imenu, as they say, right, and also Rachel as well. They were all very beautiful women. That's the idea. Why is that? As we said, because this is counteracts the Yetzer Hara for the man that he has a beautiful wife. That's the idea. This is the reason why we talk about beauty. There's also another thing that it talks about over here, which is what? It says that she was a virgin also. Right? So what does that mean? She wasn't one of those, bad girls, those discotheque girls, whatever, those nightclub girls. She wasn't one of those.
Requisite for girls back then?
Yes and no. I'll explain to you, right? That's a good question, right? So, first of all, it comes out to tell you that she was a virgin, right? But not only that, it stresses even more, right? That no man ever had her, It says twice. She was a virgin and no man had her. It's the same thing. So why you have to tell me twice? Once is enough. Tell me one time she's a virgin. I understand. So you know what the Chazal say, right? She was a virgin from both sides. From the front side and from the back side. Because there were some ladies, right, regarding what you asked, this is exactly your question. There were some ladies who used to guard their virginity from the front side. From the back side, they didn't guard. Because they knew that wasn't so important. They couldn't catch them on that.
I see.
There's no hymen over there. From the back side, right? So therefore, they used to guard their front side, but their back side they didn't guard. You understand? They played this double game, double entendre.
I didn't realize that those things went on back then.
Oh yeah. Nothing has changed, right? It's all the same. So it's the same world as we always had. So what happens like this, right? That it comes and tells you the verse that she was virgin from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it so important that a woman should be a virgin?
Well,
you talked about this before.
I have my own ideas.
What do you think?
I think that it's important that if somebody takes an oath to spend the rest of their life with you, and you also, man also,
Yeah.
that they shouldn't have anybody else prior
What's the reason? Why?
in their mind when they're intimate with you.
Interesting. Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, this is a logical, thinking
One
what
of
you're
them.
saying, right? Yeah, it's logical
Yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
logical thinking. But the truth is that there's something a little bit deeper also as well, a little bit more, deep as well. They say, right, the Chazal, the Gemara, something amazing. They say that en isha koretet et habrit ela mi she'oseh takli.
okay.
You know what that means? That a woman doesn't make a covenant with a man, like a pact, agreement,
Yeah.
contract, unless he makes her into a kli. You know what that means? You know what a kli is in Hebrew? Kli means a utensil. What does that mean? He was the first one that went inside her.
I see.
He opened her up. He made her into a utensil. You understand?
I see.
So what does that mean? The Gemara is telling you something very deep about this. That a woman who's a virgin, she's going to be more loyal to her husband. Because he was the first one for her.
Yeah.
There's a special bond that forms over there.
I see.
Something psychological as well. You understand? So therefore, this is why it's recommended, even though this is not halakha, a person is allowed to marry somebody who's not a virgin. But if you're a young man, right? I'm not talking about a second marriage and third marriage. That's a different story.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be realistic also. You know what I mean? Don't live in a fantasy world. but the point is like this, right? When you're a young man, better to find a virgin girl because of this reason. Why? Because that woman who is a virgin is going to be much more loyal to you, more attached, more. Right?
It makes sense.
There's a stronger
It doesn't
bond.
always happen that way.
There's going to be a
but-
stronger bond there. You understand? So this is the reason why this is the advantage of having a girl who's a virgin. There's also another thing, right, which Gemara says in a different place. There's a different Gemara. Talks about this also as well. You know what the Gemara says? Gemara says that it's because of this it's not recommended so much to marry a woman who's divorced or widowed. It's allowed to do that, but not so recommended. What's the reason why? Because the Gemara says something amazing, right? You would never think of this. He says what happens is right, not every man has a different size, We talked about this with your friends, on 108 over there. We talked about this, right? Every man has a different size. So what happens is that if she had a husband who was one size,
Yes.
we're talking about
Yes.
you know what I'm talking about. Right?
Sure.
So if you had a man who was one size, and now this guy, you're bigger than him, it's gonna hurt her.
I
She's not used to that size. You understand? So she's gonna resent you for that. You're hurting her. You understand this idea? So it's like with women, it's not like one size fits all. In one sense, it is. I mean, the truth is, technically speaking, they can fit every size.
Yeah.
But whatever she's used to, she likes that better. So if she had a size that she was used to when she was younger, so now that she has a different size, it's not going to be so good for her. So she's going to blame you for that. She's going to say, "You violating me. You're hurting me." This is what she's going to say. You understand this? So
It's pretty incredible
Yeah,
that
yeah.
gets this graphic.
yeah. The Torah goes very deep into these things, right? There's no end to it, right? So you see from there that this is why the Torah emphasizes over here that she was a virgin, and also she was a virgin from both sides. What does that mean? That she was totally clean, a real clean girl, not one of those who messes around here, back door, front door, this entrance, that entrance, right? That doesn't work anymore. That's the idea, right? So she was clean from every side. The Torah, everything it says has a purpose. Has a reason. All these things are very, very important things to understand. Because when a person understands these things, he understands, how to deal with himself as well, how to get married, who to marry, so forth, so on. The Chazon Ish used to say, Alav Shalom, that if you're marrying a woman, what quality should a person look for? How do you know if she's a good woman, she's a bad woman? You never know, right? You never know what you're getting. You never know what merchandise you're getting.
Yeah.
You can't know everything about her. They know how to hide these things, right? The women, they dress up nice, makeup and this and that. They make them look like angels, But you never know what's really behind that makeup and all that stuff. You know how it is. So how does a person know? So the Chazon Ish says there's two things you have to check. It's actually very related to what we're talking about now, right? One thing is that check if she's tzanua. You know what that means? She's modest. She dresses modestly. Right? If a woman dresses modestly, she doesn't wear, the mini skirts and the low cut, guli, that's guli dasuli, everything, short sleeves, shorts, this kind of thing, bikinis. The woman who dresses modesty, that's so just she's a God-fearing person. She fears God. Because she knows that when you dress like a, you know what I'm talking about. When you dress like those girls, those bad girls, what happens is that usually that comes with an attitude. There's a certain attitude there, no fear of God, because they know that when you dress like that as a woman, you're gonna have all kinds of results coming in, and all kinds of eventualities that are gonna confront you because of that. So what does that mean? That a woman who's looking for that, looking to bring those eventualities on by not dressing modestly, you know from there that she's not a good girl if she dresses like that. This is the idea. That's number one. Number two, says the Chazon Ish, the second thing to look for is what? If she honors her parents. How she treats her parents, that's how she's going to treat you. You understand? What does that mean? That for the daughter, the parents are an authority figure. Understand? They're an authority figure. So what does that mean? The husband is also an authority figure for the wife. Understand? So you're basically what she does, and when she gets married, she goes from one authority figure to another.
Yeah.
She switches.
Yes.
So it's going to be like this, right? Says the Chazon Ish. If she treats her authority figure, her parents, well, honors them, she's going to treat you also well. But if she treats them like garbage, excuse me the expression, right? She's going to treat you the same way. What does that mean? She doesn't respect authority. So therefore, she doesn't respect her parents, she's not going to respect you either. So if these two things you find in a woman, that she's modest and she respects her parents, Chazon Ish said this is a kosher girl. Marry her. Go for it. Right? So the truth is that this description that we just said in the name of the Chazon Ish, it's very close to what we just described over here as well. What does that mean? That Rivka showed by her signs, by her behavior, that she was a good girl. The main signs were there. What are the main signs? Kindness, goodness, doing chesed, being gentle, being sweet, and also being God-fearing, not messing around with boys, all these kinds of things. So this is the reason why they knew that Rivka Imenu, right, she was a good catch for us. Therefore Eliezer grabbed her, right, took her. That's what happened, right? Because he knew from all these things that she was a good girl. She was fitting for Yitzchak. So therefore he took her. There's also another interesting thing, which is that Yitzchak Avinu, right, the Chazal say, it's brought down in Zohar Kadosh at length about this. They say that each one of our forefathers had different qualities. We have three patriarchs. We had Abraham, we had Yitzchak, and we have Yaakov, right? So Abraham his quality was chesed, his kindness was his quality. He was especially astute, in this quality of kindness. Yitzchak was judgment, just the opposite, right, of Abraham.
I see.
He was strict judgment. We also need that in the Jewish people as well. We need, our judges, we need the people who judge. We need people who pass decrees, who make decrees. We need the quality of judgment as well. Otherwise, the world cannot function just with kindness. It has also judgment there. Justice, has to be there as well. So therefore, Yitzchak Avinu that was his quality. Quality of judgment, the quality of strict judgment, quality of justice was there. So you know what they say, right? Opposites attract. Usually, if you're like one on the one end, your wife should be on the other side to balance it out. You understand? So Yitzchak Avinu, since his quality was judgment, he needed a woman like Rivka, whose quality was kindness, to balance out one with the other. Right? This is the idea. So a person should know, right? This is also another thing. When you're looking for a wife, you don't want to take somebody who's exactly like you. You just the opposite you want, right? To balance you out. If she's just like you, you're gonna have too much extreme on one side. You know what I mean? So you have to have one side, the other side together. You meet 50-50, and you're doing good. Right? That's the idea. That's the way it works. So this is also why she was fitting for Yitzchak Avinu, because she had the quality of kindness. Yitzchak Avinu was just the opposite. She was the quality of strict judgment. Chazal says something similar to that, by the way, as well. Something you may think it's superficial, but it's not. Chazal say, if you're going to get married, right, and you're a dark guy, you're dark skinned, tall, dark, and handsome, right, whatever, tall, dark, and gruesome, right? Whatever it is, right? So if you're dark, Chazal say you should find a wife who's light skinned. Don't marry a woman who's also dark like you. If you're light, don't marry a woman who's like light like you, Or what you do? Marry a darker girl. What's the reason why? Because when you have children between you two, your qualities are now coming together and forming some kind of a compromise, some kind of a hybrid there. right? So what happens is that if they're both dark, the children will be too dark. They look like Temanim. They look like Yemenites. Too dark, This is the thing. But if one of them is light, one of them is dark, the children will come out very balanced, very even. Nice. Not too dark, not too not too light. This is the idea. They say also if a person marries a woman and she's light and he's also light, you know what happens? The children may come out to be like albinos, like way too light. Overexposed. They say, right? Overexposure. So this is also something that a person has to know, right? That also when it comes to physical qualities, one should, right, find somebody who's the opposite of what he is. So this way they can balance each other out, and this way they find the right match, and therefore the children turn out to be balanced and clean, right, and good, and right, to have the proper qualities. A little bit from here, a little bit from the father, a little bit from the mother. That's the way it is. This is the idea. Very good. So you get the idea. Very good. Let's see if we can find something else also to say here. Something interesting. Another interesting narrative over here is like this, right? That when Eliezer came over there, can you imagine? This Eliezer was a tzaddik, as we said, right? So he comes over there, but the family of Avraham Avinu over there, what are we talking about here? We're talking about Betuel, who was the father, right? Rivka was the daughter, and Lavan was the brother, So Betuel and Lavan were both Rashaim, Bedureb, the worst of the worst, gangsters, both of them gangsters. Understand? Mafia people. That's what they were. So what happened was that once Eliezer came over there, and Eliezer came over there in a very flashy way, What does that mean? He came with a lot of wealth. He brought niftabi, presents, all kinds of impressive things, antiques, all kinds of things to show them, look, Avraham Avinu, he's a very wealthy man, so don't worry, he's going to be able to support your daughter in a very good way, right, in a very classy way, right, elegant way, lots of generosity, it's going to be, prominence, everything like that, right, that's the idea. So, what happens is that they saw him and they eyed him, right away. Lavan and Betuel, father and son, they said, "Oh man, this guy's filthy rich. You know what we should do? Let's kill him, and we'll take all his money. We'll rob him, They want to plunder him right there. That's what their plan. Understand? Instead of marrying off their daughter, they wanted to kill this guy and take his wealth. That's what they were thinking to do. So what happened? How they planned to do it? Right? Eliezer was a very strong guy. This guy, he was like, Mr. Muscle, this guy was a dangerous guy, right? Don't mess with this guy. Eliezer was too tough to mess with, so therefore they said, we can't beat this guy up. Even if we go together, we have no chance against him, right? So they said, let's pull a trick on him. So what they did was they said, since you came to marry our daughter, let's have lunch together, we'll have a little bit lunch. Pulmarili, a little bit, chinkalevi, chinkalevi. Everything, right? Like these guys had downstairs. So what happens is like this, right? That they bring food, So what they did was they put poison into the food of Eliezer, They said, we'll poison him, He'll pass away, he'll die, and we'll take all his wealth. We'll plunder everything. We'll take his wealth, we'll take his credit cards, right? We'll take everything. All his jewelry, all diamonds, gold, everything. Right? Get everything. So what happens is like this, right? They put a plate in front of Eliezer to eat, and that plate was poisoned. They said, please, take some, enjoy yourself, indulge. So Eliezer says, no, he says, I'm not going to take until I tell you first of all what I came here for. I'm not going to eat, just like I told him downstairs. I told him, I'm not going to eat the chinkali until I do first my Divrei Torah. Same thing, right? So we're in good company, right, in that sense. So it happens like this, right, that Eliezer tells him, first I have to tell you the story. Why I came here, what I'm looking for, right, what's my purpose over here, what's my objective, blah, 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 blah. He tells him the whole story, goes over the whole story, from A to Z, right? So what happens is that meanwhile, he's not eating, So they're just looking at him like this. Man, when is this guy going to eat, get rid of this guy, rub him out. When is he going to eat something? Poison him, be finished, right? So what happened was that during this whole discussion that he was telling them about what happened, how he came there, and all these kinds of things, came the Malach, right? They say King Malach Gabriel, right? And he switched the plates. The poison plate he put in front of Betuel, and the kosher plate he put in front of Eliezer. So what happened was, right, that Betuel ate the food over there and he died. So Betuel was the one who died, you understand? They wanted to kill Eliezer, What happened was that Betuel was the one who died himself. You understand? So Betuel dies right there. Can you imagine the father of the daughter? They want to take his daughter, marry her. He drops dead right there on the spot. They said, "What happened to you? You were choking, on the floor, strangling. Dies a slow death. He got poisoned instead of Eliezer. The angel came and switched it. Unbelievable. Yeah, it was the whole thing like that. So what happened was like this, right? That in the end they had to give her to Eliezer to take her. The father that was just dead, he died. And they gave her to go away. Can you imagine? It was such a strange thing that happened over there, right? The whole thing was like a whole episode. So I want to tie this into the Mishlei. We'll finish it off here, right? It says in the Mishlei. What do a little bit of Mishlei, right? It says regarding this that regarding exactly this story, right? To tie it into the story over here. As we said, what happened over here? That Betuel was thinking to poison, right, to Eliezer to kill him, right, and Lavan also, right, to kill him. So what happened was that he himself got killed in the end. So it says the Mishlei something similar to that, right? What does it say? That the fear of the wicked one, it will befall him. You know what that means? That if a person who's wicked, or Rasha, he has a certain fear, like, maybe this is going to happen to me, something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So he tries to, in order to prevent that happening to him, he tries to harm somebody else in order to avoid harm to himself. Tries to pull a scam, some kind of like they're doing over there in Congress, right, over there, all these kinds of scams, right? Lest he win the elections, so we'll try to, impeach him first, and he won't win the elections, right? So they say, they say about this, right? They say that the wicked, when they try to pull scams like this in order to prevent harm to themselves, what happens is that exactly what they fear, it comes on them anyway. So what does that mean? Just like here also, same thing. That whatever they wanted to do to him, to Eliezer, it actually came on them in the end. That's exactly what happened, right? So that's what happens to a Rasha. When a Rasha tries to plan against a Tzaddik to do something bad to him, to harm him, what happens is that Kadosh Baruch Hu switches, right, the tide, and he makes that thing happen to that person, to that Rasha. It brings it back to him, right? We see there's two examples like this in the Tanakh and in the Bible, right? What happened was at the door of the Haflagah, the door of the generation of dispersion, they said, let's build a big tower, right? The twin towers, whatever it is, all kinds of things. So this way, lest we be scattered all over the face of the earth, right? What happened? So because of that, they built a tower in order not to be scattered, and exactly that's what happened, right? When they built the tower, they got scattered. So whatever they feared, the wicked, whatever they fear, and they try to prevent that, they don't want God to intervene, God does it to them anyway. He doesn't care about that. That those plans that they make doesn't work out. This is the idea, right? So that's exactly what happens to the wicked. Whatever they fear, that it may happen to them, and they try to. The same thing happened to Paro, right?
Yeah.
Paro and the Jewish people. What happened when the Jews were there? He said, let's deal with the Jewish people, lest they get out from here, they leave and they defeat us, right? So this is exactly what happened. Paro tried to prevent that from happening, but in the end, exactly that's what happened. The Jews left and they defeated him, right? So all that plot that he had, that dirty, filthy plot, right? Just like they have in Congress over there, right? Schiff and his friends over there, right? That filthy plot, it turned back on him, and he got killed, and his people got killed.
You think the same course will take
so
here?
For me, it's like a prayer.
You think that's
it's a prayer, that it should be happening the same thing to them.
Yeah.
Same thing will happen to them. It should be like that.
But
that just like they fear, that he's going to win, and because of that trying to do all this nonsense, that exactly will happen. He will win, and they'll fall. That's exactly what will happen, right? Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen. Thanks for coming.
Amen.
God bless you. We'll see you, B'ezrat Hashem, next time on Thursday.
Yeah, they are.
And I wish to all the ones who watched this shiur, this lecture, whether it was on Facebook, on YouTube, whatever it is, they should have blessings, abundance, wealth, health, happiness, good family, good life, and all the good things. Amen. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen.
We're going to Fridays.